Hi everyone, it's Saralise and I'm here with Dani Katz, something Dani. She's super awesome. I love her so much and she agreed to come on and have a conversation with me about eugenics and mind control and how it's relating to current events that we are experiencing right now in the world. And so I value her and respect her opinion a lot and her experience. So I thought I would bring her on and talk about this specifically and just have a conversation about, what we are experiencing and our own perspectives and how we view what's happening in the world right now in terms of this. So, Dani, I would love to ask you some questions, or just why don't you just share a little bit about yourself first of all, just what your thriving is, like what your joy is in life and what you're up to, because it's really fascinating.
Okay. Thanks for having me, first of all.
Sure.
My greatest joys in life are dancing and being in water. So those are
Nice.
the essence.
Yay.
I seem to like to speak for truth and justice and unity consciousness. I am a word wizard. So my background is as a journalist and a writer. And at some point, words invited me into a different, more multidimensional evolutionary conversation. And now I write about and I teach about how words create our reality and how to use words to transform and create reality. So that's what lights me up big, big time.
Yeah, I love that you're a word wizard. That's so incredible. I would call you a word priestess, but that's wizard is alchemist, a word alchemist.
I had just switched it because I've been calling myself a word witch just as my own thing. And witch has a resonance in our culture that isn't universally embraced. So
correct.
Yes, this is actually my first time that I've articulated myself as a word wizard.
Well, interesting. I like alchemist too. Like alchemist feels like, well, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're alchemizing, right? You're alchemizing. Yeah, it's exactly what you're doing.
Word alchemist. Yeah. It's a little esoteric.
Really?
Still playing with, already what I do is so abstract because, it's like the fish spending a lifetime studying the water in which it swims. So I'm constantly mastering, making it more accessible, available to more and more people. Maybe alchemist is it.
Because wizard again is a magical, like it's a little off for people, whereas an alchemist is alchemy is
it's true. It does speak to the doing, like what is actually happening.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay,
it's kind of like being an architect, right? Like I'm an energetic architect, if you will. I'm a whatever. I don't consider myself a healer. Obviously I'm a healer, but I'm more of an architect of energy. Like I'm a doctor of vibrational medicine. It's like I'm doing something with the energy.
Yeah, exactly. I like that because in both instances we're speaking to what is happening and what we are doing versus some overarching sort of like title.
Yes. Well, like I'm a priestess of power priestess, but in terms of what I'm actually doing, I'm facilitating energy. So I'm architecting the energy itself, as opposed to being a high priestess of some particular thing,
Exactly, which is hard for people to connect. There's not a lot of traction.
They're just oh, you think you're blah blah blah.
Totally.
And I I am, but it's like I don't have to be I don't know. There's that ego thing where people just can't, they can't, you're not accessible to them.
Exactly.
If you title yourself in a specific way. And I've learned that over the years. Like at first I was like, well, maybe I should use my titles because they actually mean something. And I did that. And it brought a certain quality into the field. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And now they're trying to worship me and I'm not into that. Right. So then I'm like, okay, I need to shift out of that because that's so not what my trip is. Like, I'm not interested in that, So it takes a while. So energetic alchemist, I could describe myself that way, or an architect
Yeah, I like that. And I like any constant tweaking of like, it's not like one static thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like witch and wizard are more static to me. They're more staple. They're just like.
Totally. Well, thank you for the branding advice. And I love that it was the first time I use it and I got this feedback so quickly.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Well, because when I think of you as an alchemist, because what you're doing is like literally transforming the English language, like for real, in a way that empowers people and they can step out of the spell matrix.
Yeah.
Which is what it is, right? There's that spell matrix happening, and it's important for us to see the spell within the words, because the English language was literally designed to be a spell.
Exactly. And it's exactly where the control is coming now. It's all a psyop because it's all through the words. Like we look at our reality, and it's not, it's not like people with guns or people with like blood gushing out of their eyes and dropping dead. It's all words telling us how bad it is, how divided we are, how we should be scared. It's all words.
It's all words.
Which the
xenophobe, racist. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
white nationalist, Republican, alt-right, anti-vaxxer. It's all words. The beauty of it being all words, that is the mechanism of control, is that we get to shift it with words. It's that's what's so exciting to me, is that it's quite simple and quick and graceful once we all get on board.
Right. And here's a really good example of that, right? The All Lives Matter.
Which is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's completely inclusive. That includes Black lives.
And to differentiate Black lives in it is to create separation and call into question the relevance of Black lives. That's what that statement does.
Right. And it actually victimizes Black people. It victimizes people of color, in period.
It's so disempowering. It's so disempowering. I know. This is what got me booted from Reality Sandwich back in 2013.
What?
This was our final straw. Was I'd pitched, we got to talk about the languaging of Black Lives Matter because it's really dangerous, divisive languaging. And they said, no, we're not going to take that on. And you cause us too much trouble.
That's awesome, though.
I mean, not really.
And here we are, though, 7 years freaking later, and it's still the same program running in the collective. Hello. We need to shift that. Like, that's mind control, dude.
It's 100% mind control, just like Me Too is mind control.
Yes.
All these little slogans and hashtags, they're all mind control, which is how they're running their sham. I call it the sham show.
It is the sham show, for sure.
It really is 100%. The sham show. Yeah.
100%. Meanwhile, they're hiding all the human trafficking and the child trafficking, the rape, the torture, the murder, and the drinking of the children's blood and adrenochrome, while all of this other stuff is going on, right?
Oh, completely. And now the mainstream media's latest tactic on it is to speak to it in these really like reductive, cartoonish.
Yeah, as if it's this make-believe thing that everyone's making up, and the Q is dangerous because, we're like dangerous.
Terrorists. I think we're terrorists.
Oh.
I mean, not we. I don't identify as anything, but the Q movement are all terrorists. And now while all this is happening, they're changing pedophile laws. That is just normalizing, it is so appalling. It's crazy.
They are trying to pass through law, pedophiles normalizing fucking boys. Number one.
Lowering the age of consent in some places to like 12?
No, 6.
And now
6 years old. 6 years old.
6? I mean, it is.
Dude, are you kidding me? One of them was 4 years old, I think, that I saw.
I was appalled, I think, even in school, that Mambla existed. Like, that was the first time where I thought, why is this a legitimate thing?
Right. So
Why is
if
this
anybody
okay?
doesn't know what that is, that's the North American Man-Boy Love Association, people. NAMBLA.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah.
You will be
Funded,
sickened.
funded by George Soros.
Funded by George Soros. You know what else I found out is the Me Too movement was actually started by someone in the families.
Really?
I don't remember. Wait, who is it? Oh, no, it was Joe Biden's daughter.
Me too. I was tracking it. Like,
she was part of that whole, like, instigating it and getting it out there.
that makes sense because it's the perfect, like, look over here while I'm doing this thing over here. As I recall that Me Too popped up when news of like shooters on the ground, like videos of shooters on the ground during that whole Vegas massacre.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I never even put those two together.
So that's when videos started to emerge, and then all of a sudden it became front page news and the most important thing on the planet that there was a casting couch in Hollywood. Like, that became so shocking.
The
that
distraction
totally dominated the news cycle. And then you have all these actresses who are paid to pretend coming forward, and they're heroes. I mean, this culture is just crazy.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. It's a little nutty.
Yeah, well, that makes me think about when I was in England and what happened to me in relation to that. So on the second day, so the first day it came out about Harvey, right? And the second day, I decided to do a prayer because I was doing all these prayers for engineered weather patterns, the fires, like all this shit was happening. It was so crazy.
Yeah,
like
the
fires
world
was blowing up. If
totally.
people don't even remember 3 years ago what we were dealing with back then, it's almost like
cognitive dissonance. They bring it on so quickly at such an accelerated pace on purpose to keep us in a state of confusion and paralyzed.
Exactly. So people don't even remember what happened 3 years ago. We had hurricanes, fires. What else did we have? We had the Me Too movement. We had the Las Vegas shooting. All at the same time.
Yep, the exact same time.
And I was in England, right? I had been traveling the world doing all this work and like clearing everything. And as I was lifting the veil and as I was dismantling the dark control grid, this stuff started happening. So from my experience of it, I'm like, oh, that's working. Oh, that's working. Because there would be a reaction, an immediate reaction in the field.
Totally.
And so, like, then, of course, do I feel bad about the fact that I'm doing this? No, because actually it has to happen in order for us to move forward. So
yeah, you're releasing it from the field.
I was releasing
so it. Physical manifestation so that we could be done with it.
Well, there's a reaction in the field from the dark because they're like, oh, shit, we're losing control, right? So then that's when all that shit started happening. Then I moved to Glastonbury again for the second time. And during the first couple of months I was there, literally all this shit was going down, right? And the Harvey Weinstein piece came in. And I had a personal experience with that in Hollywood in 1991. And so I personally experienced something in relation to that. And I didn't speak to exactly what it was, but I did say that there was a connection there, and literally overnight, my entire life fell apart. I was attacked by my roommate that I was living with, full on for 2.5 hours, just the devil coming through. Like it was, I had never seen that in her prior to that moment. Like it was literally like a different person.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I was being targeted really heavily, and I had to find a new place to live. I had to go through all this stuff just to stabilize again. So that's what I was telling you earlier is like, because you asked me like, you know, what happens? And that's an example of a situation where I was literally stabilized. I was totally fine. I was living. And then all of a sudden, my entire life fell apart overnight. And I had to move.
Yep.
And I had to find the money to move. And I had to like, I just paid her, you know, like, and she wasn't going to give me my money back. Right. Like, so it's things like that where it's like, you know, destabilization central, you know?
Yeah.
And I had cleared a lot of the tracking and targeting out of my field. So it was like really stunning to me when it happened, because it hadn't happened for so long.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what's happening? What? Wait, whoa, settle down. You know, like, let's take it down a notch. But it was like, nope, it was relentless. So I literally went across the street after this event and just cried to my mom, like, who's dead. I was just like, I want my mommy. It was like on that level of like, it broke me almost.
Yeah. Aww.
And that has not happened in like years. And this woman was a stranger. You have to understand, she didn't know anything about my life, but somehow she knew exactly how to trigger me.
Yeah.
I barely even been at her house. Like, it was like, you know, an interdimensional being, like looking at my core triggers and just like bam, 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 like just slamming me. And I was literally sitting on the couch, like in shock. Like, I couldn't even believe what was happening. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to contest this one. I'm out. Like, I was like, it's better that I'm not around this situation. Like, whoa.
Yeah. So often with those, when it's like something else is moving through and it's at such a high intensity, just like, I'll take the hit to just get away. Just
exactly. Like,
whatever it is,
I'm not gonna react to this.
I'm not gonna engage it.
Yeah, I didn't react. I just sat there and quiet and stunned. But then I had to go across the street and like cry it out, like for
of course
another 2 hours. Like, I was I was wrecked.
Yeah.
And that was specifically Luciferic consciousness that I feel was coming through her in that moment. And that opened me up to another level of understanding of what was going on with Hollywood and
interesting.
Harvey Weinstein, and that, because I had literally been blacklisted, and that was my confirmation. I knew in the back of my mind that I'd always been blacklisted. I didn't know why, and it happened at a certain point, you know, blah, blah, blah. And before that, I was like soaring, right? And then I went to read for him at his house, and the next thing you know, I'm blacklisted, right? So it was very clear to me. And then I tried again, but then even though I was getting somewhere, I wasn't ever able to get the role. I was either to this, to that, to this, to that, which is normal, right? Yeah. But there was another level of it there that you could feel the sinister, like pointing it out because it was me.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I knew I was being targeted by the casting directors. I knew that I was being targeted by the people in Hollywood, the producers. I mean, I was reading for I read for Alias up against Jennifer Garner. I read for Rockstar up against Jennifer Aniston. Like, I was literally there.
Yeah.
And I never got anywhere. You know what I mean? It was
totally.
So crazy. Like, there's no reason why I couldn't have started any of those movies. I was clearly the talent, and everything that I needed was there, and I was already there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was like they wanted me to believe that I was there, and they were sending me, and they were just using me. They just used me, basically.
Well, they're feeding off of that energy. They're feeding off of the frustration. They're feeding off of, and I do feel like there's kind of like a sadistic mockery piece.
Oh,
like, I get that. How
they mocked me hard, dude.
Well, just how like in what's going
right now.
Yeah. How it's so obvious and badly done. Like, if we saw this as like, it's like a 5th grade play, you know, like with the bad props and like forgetting their lines. Like, it feels like it's at that level.
Yeah.
And they're just making fun of us. And then what's crazy is that it seems to be working on a lot of people.
Well, here's that part. Is anyone that is like watching Netflix or watching American Horror Story or, you know, playing video games, or it's like literally that's where they just, all the levels, it's coming through and it seeps into your reality so completely that you're locked into that reality.
Yeah. And it's coming from every screen. Like a friend
Every
of mine,
direction, dude.
every direction. A friend of mine got those Oculus VR glasses and he wanted me to come over and try them. And I wasn't really, like he was excited. So I'm like, okay, I'll come play with your glasses. And it comes with these like various programs or games that you can try it out with.
Yeah.
And they all look terrible. So this was right when BLM blew up. And one was like road tripping across America while black. And another one was like anti-racism something. And then like they were all so creepy and programmy. And then there was a nature one. And I thought, okay, I'll watch the nature one. And within like it was like maybe 10 seconds of beautiful nature scenery. And then it went right into pollution and here's how we're destroying it and here's the climate crisis that we are in and fear and fear and fear. And that was just,
oh my God.
And then I took it off and said, I don't want any part of this. And then I also touched in on, I don't do a lot of like Netflix or like, I don't do a lot of those. Like when I was living in LA and writing for television, like I was a little bit more, but I touched in on this show, The Politician. I was just curious about it.
Right.
Every single episode, there was some sort of like, there was a whole thing about like leftism and youth and the climate stuff. And then there was this like completely non sequitur moment where Gwyneth Paltrow says, well, that would be as ridiculous as believing that a pizza parlor is a hub for underground child pornography. And it had nothing to do with the story. It just felt like some contractual obligation to drop it in. And then the last one, I'm just remembering, this one was crazy. The same friend with the Oculus wanted to show me a television show called Midnight. I honestly don't even remember what it was called. It's a new animated series on Netflix. And it was like a conversation about death that was kind of trippy with a bunch of psychedelic visuals happening. And the psychedelic animations, they weren't necessarily like a narrative. It was just like kind of going on in the background of the conversation. And at least half a dozen times, the visuals would turn into a hypodermic needle, injecting one of the little characters who were like all drugged out. And this happened, I'm not kidding, like 6 times during a 28-minute show. And so I'm barely exposed to mainstream
and you're just seeing it everywhere.
Everywhere. It was appalling to me. And like I'm so sensitive, so I feel it, so it's just gross.
Yeah, you can't even expose yourself to it.
No, it's so icky.
It's awful. And last year I had like a year. It was so funny. Last year I was like checking out on shows and like I was watching things with very specific intention, but I noticed myself like I would go into the matrix. Like I would watch myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm actually going into the matrix and being programmed. I could see it. I could feel it. And I'd never felt that way before watching anything. But last year specifically, it was so clear to me. I had never been more clear. And I had been out of the country, right, for a couple of years. So I wasn't really online that much. I was actually just living my life and really enjoying it. But I was watching in Glastonbury, I watched a few things, but I noticed it even then. I was like, wow, this is like, whoa, dude, what happened?
It's
literally since 2016, it's just been a different world.
The world has gone so crazy since 2016. Like because I left mainstream media. Like I took a baseball bat to my television in like the 90s.
Yeah. I haven't had a television since 2000.
Yeah. And I've been, I've worked in news, so I know how toxic that is. But I totally forgot where I was going with this. Oh, this is what it was. I still subscribe to Wired magazine. It was like my one tether where I felt a little bit normal and I could go to like a dinner party with like normal people and be able to be in the conversation. And it just felt like, I don't know, it was like a last bastion of like earlier, more naive, simpler times, you know?
Simpler times is exactly what, and Wired magazine, you would
Wired
think
magazine. And then
that would be something that was a little bit more avant-garde.
Exactly. And then as soon as we had the election, it became political propaganda telling me what to think about our president and I was disgusted, like, at 2 Wired magazine. I mean, of course, like, they're part of the media cabal.
Yes.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. But I did hear that, okay, so this is interesting in terms of like my actions too. So here's where it gets interesting for me. I'm almost like tracking it like a scientist would, you know, like what I've been doing. Okay. And I haven't talked about it with anyone because I feel like, you know, it's better not to say, right? But here's where I feel like now I feel compelled to speak to this stuff because of the results of what's happening in the field, in the world. In September of 2015, we had an eclipse window, and there was an asteroid that was not being talked about on anywhere, on anything, that I was privy to, and went in and I like stopped them from dropping this, causing an extinction level event. I stopped it from happening on Bermuda. They were going to take out the whole East Coast. Okay. Then in October, I canceled all the contracts between the Dark Lords and humanity, and I locked them out of Eden, basically, and just said, you're done. I've had enough. You're done. And I just went, whoosh. And at that moment, everything shifted. I felt it happen on the planet. I felt the energy of it. It was serious. And then within 20 minutes, dude, I had sigils flying at me from all directions, trying to lock me in. And I was like, you will not. Like, I was literally like that. Like, you will not.
Nice. Good.
I'm Queen Mother of the Earth, yo. You do not fuck with me. You know what I mean? Like, I was like on
totally.
that level. I was just so done. I was just like,
totally.
How dare you? You know, like.
I think that's so interesting is that the right energy coming through our voice, when we know ourselves sovereign, when we know what we know, you know, on all dimensions, even on 3D, a strong
100%.
Oh hell no goes a long way.
It's the energy behind and the clarity of the how do I say this? Of the ownership of your sovereignty, of knowing, and everyone can feel it.
Exactly.
Whatever dimension you're in, you command that, and that's that.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So then from that point forward, I watched how the reptilian eyes started showing up with people with makeup on, and I started seeing it. It was like the veil was gone, dude, and you could see, and they just were out in the open about it. They were having satanic rituals, and it was super clear, and like in like the Grammys, and like you could see it. It was all of a sudden everybody could see it. But they put a spell on top of it because they were like, oh shit, right? So they put a spell, and it took me a really long time to dismantle that spell. And it wasn't until this year that I was able to dismantle that spell recently. But it's you know, it's like dark magic is real, you guys. Like, they use sacrifices to enact things. They cement them with people's blood. It is no joke. And so to be able to dismantle a spell, you have to go back into the actual ritual and extract the blood and extract the soul who then was sacrificed. You have to go through a whole process to dismantle that stuff. It's real. You know, and people don't realize what it takes to actually do this stuff. But now we're at a place where we have released the huge spell that was on the name that was causing all of that. So now when it happens, more and more people are waking up to the fact that it's not real.
Yeah.
But until that point, it was like the hatred towards, and so I had to protect that person, and I had to go through all the stuff to dismantle all of that so that people could see the good in it, the good actions, the good, because for me, like, even I had this weird hatred that didn't make any sense, because I had a lot of respect for that person prior to the show that he had. And that show, you know, and they made him look like an idiot. Like, they made him look bad. But the truth is, he's never been bad, right? It's just like they want to make him, they paint this person out to be this. Why would they do that? You got to start asking yourself that question. Like, why on earth would one person be so threatening to the rest of society that they would have to just completely try to take, and this person's like, I got this. Like, I'm so used to it. I know exactly what's going on. And I've got a legion. So, you know, I tell the truth. I'm authentic. And I have no qualms about it. That's exactly what our world needs.
No.
There's no other person that could do what's being done right now. Like, I don't know of any other human being on the planet that could actually be in that role and do what he's doing. I've never seen anybody who's not bought and sold on some level, right? I mean, There's a lot of beautiful, authentic people out there, but they're not in the position with the wherewithal and the knowingness about the financials specifically. That's what this is all about. This is all about our financial matrix.
Well, that's
owning us.
Yes. That's why it makes sense to have someone with business acumen there.
Exactly.
Like, that's the lens of perception that's allowing for this paradigm shift.
Exactly. Because he's a businessman.
And the United States is a corporation.
And he knows everybody in the world. Like, there's really nobody else who could do these negotiations.
It's the negotiations, exactly, yeah.
It's like, yeah. So I got to this place where all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, I need to pay attention to what's happening here. I need to look at this, because this is unnatural for me to not like somebody in general.
Yeah.
It's unnatural for me to have a disgust for somebody unless there's an actual reason for it.
That's what, totally. And I think it's so fascinating about the energy signature here, and whatever spell and virus is being, used on top of it, that is so polarizing, that there is such a strong reaction.
Divisive.
Really divisive. And so what I've only come to this super recently is that, like, this instance is actually no different from any, although this one feels like this, particular example we're talking about is very hyped up. But I'm reading a lot of David Hawkins and his Eye of the I, and any opinion is ego, so also another piece of what's going on macro micro is each of our individual ascension processes. So what I've noticed about this particular situation is that if I'm pro or con, then I'm stuck in the construct. So while I honor and I recognize the great work being done, I remain neutral. Like, that's my whole thing.
Exactly where I'm at too, dude. I mean, it could go any which way at any moment. We don't actually know.
Exactly. Because it's all coming through the screens. I don't,
Exactly. We're not there physically witnessing any of this. So, like.
Right. And in the larger picture, it does make sense what's happening with the negotiations and the business. And for those of us who are looking, through the lenses and perspectives that you and I are looking, it's pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah. And to know that there are certain things happening behind the scenes that they're not presenting to the
many levels. Just
so many levels. The multitasking is phenomenal, dude.
The multitasking
alone.
And what's really happening, like, I'm just in awe of the competence.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's so much, dude. I can't even believe the level of attack and the accomplishments that are happening during the level of attack. For me, even all the things that I've done under attack, right? That I've accomplished under attack on a worldwide scale while I'm under attack, and activating and clearing stargates while under attack. Like, I've done that. I know what that feels like. So I can recognize it in someone else, period. I can see what's happening.
Totally. And happening, like think of the stargates, the energetics, the interdimensional, and the 3D.
At the same time.
At the same, unrelenting. Every second of every day from every angle. He's a badass.
He's a total fucking badass. I'm sorry. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm recognizing this person as being a complete and utter badass. Like, yeah, for real.
Totally.
And I, you know, there's people that are like, he's evil. I'm like, okay.
I don't get that. Yeah.
I don't get that. Yes, maybe there's a maturation issue. Maybe there's a teenager kind of thing that comes out. And all that looks like to me is like, okay, imagine if that were you and somebody was barraging you for freaking 4 years nonstop. And it even started before that. I mean, it started in 2011, they were making fun of him.
I mean, I feel like they've probably been making fun of him forever.
Right. They have, because they've all known that he's about to destroy their lives. So they've always put him down. They've always made him. So I've been through that. I know what that feels like. Yeah. And I know my worth, just like he obviously does. And I know what I'm capable of. So it's like, I don't need to bother with that. Right. Exactly. So I can see that happening. Like there's just, he doesn't even care what's going on with the politicians. Like he's literally just doing his job.
Yeah, he's on his mission. Like Dharma is very clear, and he's wow. Like I said, I want to be clear that I'm neutral here. Like I'm not.
Me too. Like I was liberal. Like, well, I don't even know if I consider myself anything, but if I was anything, I was the most liberal you could possibly be. Like, you know what I mean? Like across the board.
Something to be said right now for having the awareness of what's going on and looking through our own eyes and our own critical thinking and not looking through the lens of the mind control. And I don't think, like, I don't know the whole story, and I don't know that everything is, sunshine and unicorns and glitter caked awesomeness.
It's not.
It's not. And looking from this perspective and seeing what is being done is pretty mind-blowing, and I have respect for that.
Exactly.
And what I always
as a sovereign being, looking at what's happening, there's respect because you're looking at a sovereign being taking action, taking on all of that.
Exactly. It's like, regardless, the guy's got serious balls.
Serious balls.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I finally, because I'm not a worshiper. I don't worship people. That's not my trip. So I finally watched this, video that was like 3.5 hours long, and I didn't get through the whole thing, but I got through enough of it. And they're all interviews of this person from 1985 through now. And oh my God, dude, he's been saying the same exact thing for 35 years. What does that tell you?
Integrity?
Consistency, integrity, and it's always the same thing.
And a clear vision.
That something needs to be fixed, and if nobody else fixes it, everyone's asking him to fix it. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were asking him to fix it. And he was like, nope. But this is what I see. And they had very mad respect for this guy. Mad respect. So the fact that he has been consistent and he has been a part of this thing, and then they asked him in 2000 to run.
Interesting.
20 years ago, they asked him to run. And in 2001, 9/11, what happens? The World Trade Center, because that day was the day that they were going to enact gold-backed currency. They were going to enact Nasara that day.
Interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, it's all interconnected to dismantling the SWIFT system and putting online the quantum financial system, which is not connected to the families
Right. Right.
So the families have lost their power. This is what this is all about. And if you can get past the like Black Lives Matter movement, the riots, you know, like all the levels of Republican, if you get past all of that and you look at what's going on behind the scenes, which is one, they are taking down the deep state, which has been controlling our entire society and reality for a long time, 100 years plus.
This is 100 years.
And then they're like reestablishing abundance and removing debt.
Removing debt.
And allowing the entire population of the planet to be abundant. That is freaking huge.
Yeah.
This isn't religious. This is not about Jesus. There is a level of revelations going on with this prophecy, with this situation. There's a lot of people that look at this as the end times. It is. And
it's the end of this. It's the end of the cabal. It's the end of this bullshit. This matrix. The
matrix. It's the end of the enslavement matrix. That is what we are witnessing.
Yeah.
And on the other side of this, nobody's thinking about what's on the other side of this. They just think we're all going to hell. No, there's a whole other level that's coming that is mind-blowing, and you can see it and feel it because the cosmic light that is being deposited onto the planet right now, and that level of the shift is super clear. You go outside and you're in the sun now, and you can feel it. Like,
yeah.
If I just put my face in the sun, I'm like, oh my God, I just get blasted with codes of light. Just like
totally.
The quality of the light right now is unprecedented is the word that comes to mind.
You say that because I was pulled outside today. Like I was working and something said, go lay in your hammock. And it's, you know, like
bright, sunny,
desert, bright sun. I'm like, what is going on? And I laid there and then I came in and I crashed. I took like a 2-hour nap. I was just like, I don't know what that was. So.
Well, you just got blasted, girl.
I feel like I just got blasted.
And then the heat too, probably.
Yeah. It wasn't even that. It didn't feel
not even that hot.
No.
Oh, wow. So yeah, it was a total, because I'm going to do that in a little while. I'm going to go and, because I have a deck up here where I can just go lay on this couch and just lay in the sun and just like.
Nice.
Receive all the rays, just take them in, just
nice.
Yeah, because you know we're still here, we're in lockdown, so like, can you believe
that we're still in the fake lockdown?
And we're about to go into lockdown again in mid-September. You know about this, right?
Of course.
World lockdown.
Yeah. Whatever.
But there's a reason for that. There is actually a reason for that because they're doing all these arrests behind the scenes and they need to keep people off the street to a certain degree. There's a reason for it actually. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around that, but I know that that's why they're keeping people safe on some level.
I've gotten it intuitively, like regardless of what the narrative is.
Yeah.
Because I fought it for up until about a month ago. Like fight. No, we're going to open up, all of that.
Yeah.
And then something shifted and it was just go along with it. Like it just has to play itself out and save my energy. And it just is what it is. And like,
it's okay.
I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to wake everyone up in time to like shut it down. That's not happening. I've been trying.
Well, the thing is that so we have another wave that's coming in like the beginning of next year when they start exposing the tribunals. That's going to be when people really wake up to what's been happening. And then, so there's this whole idea that like there's going to be they're going to try to do another virus. They're going to do another even more crazy, try to kill the population situation, right? From the Gateses and the Faucis and all those people. But they've already been indicted.
Yeah, I feel like
that's not happening. It's not happening.
That's not
happening. Mail-in voting isn't happening, like, because that's all going to be on the quantum financial system, and you will be registered through your phone to vote. So there's no way that anybody can doctor or paper ballots. What? we are like, we're in the technology of like technology. How is it that we're not voting online right now? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes sense in that it excludes people who don't have phones or can't get to computers.
Well, but that in-person
Classic.
voting is still available for them.
Yeah.
But mailing absentee voting without a mask, with a mask bullshit, that is so antiquated. Like, that doesn't even make sense. That's a complete psyop.
No, that's a total.
And the U.S. Postal Office endorsed Biden. Did you hear about this?
How is that legal?
Exactly.
I can't believe people. This is what's so weird to me about that is that
that's not. You can't even trust the U.S. Postal Office now. Knowing that, I can't. I'm sorry.
Of course not. They're all
wow.
in it.
Yeah, they're all in it. So, but that's mind blowing. Like, to think that they would actually do that, because then they just put themselves in a position. They took a position. They took a stance.
But no one's noticed for the past 4 years that the New York Times has a stance, that the Washington Post has a stance, that every single newspaper and news outlet has a stance, and no one's noticed that that's completely fucked up.
Right.
So unethical. Like, that's not okay. So I mean, I hear what you're saying. Is the public, they seem to be.
But you wouldn't think that a governmental agency like the post office, right? But then there's the CDC, which is actually a privately owned firm that, oh my God, has patents on vaccines.
I know. It's such a.
So it's like people trust all these well-positioned organizations, I'm going to call them, that they're not actually governmental agencies, but they've been hooked into the government. So we have two governments going on at the same time.
Yeah, it's a combination of, because they're in control of our education system, no one knows anything about civics, laws, government.
Oh yeah, that went out the...
We're so stupid.
Teaching the Constitution in 1970, people.
Yeah, so there's that piece of it, and then... Yeah, people's critical thinking has just been completely shut down. Like, they don't understand. They don't have the, they're all on fluoride. Like, think if it was just that. Like, take away the GMOs, the pharmaceuticals, the screens, and the flu shots. Take all that shit away. Just fluoride alone would facilitate everything we're seeing. Just that one thing. And it's a million things.
Right. It's a million things.
It's a million things. I know. It's crazy. Sugar.
It's the new age movement. You guys, like, everything has been hijacked. Every single aspect of life
this was the other piece
been hijacked.
The other piece of it is people's lack of self-knowledge and lack of self-worth. So they're so willing to give their power away to perceived authority like little children.
Exactly.
We don't have a populace of fully formed adults that can discern for themselves what is right and what is wrong. They're following. So that combination, and I feel like there's a point, and then you also have the infiltration of like the millennials and the Gen Y through academia of all these like Marxist ideas, plus the helicopter parenting where like no one lost in tag and everyone wins a participation award. So I feel like there's a part of us where, similar to like the thalidomide babies in the late 60s, 70s, where we need to acknowledge we fucked up. Like, we made a mistake with this generation and it's too bad. And yes, let's create ways to find a way to get them up to speed, to get them self-esteem, to thicken their skin so they can handle words and pronouns. But we need to acknowledge that this was like an anomaly that was a result of things that are dissonant and aren't working, like are not making for a stronger human family.
It makes people broken. People are naturally broken because it doesn't even break them. They're being trained to be broken. They're being psyoped into being broken. Like, they just don't even know.
They don't even know. Think of the BPAs and the like formulas that are screwing with like the hormones. I mean, we just have to
pharmaceuticals in the water.
In the water.
In the water that you're showering in every day. The Cells, the nanobots coming into your skin, forming little things, Morgellons, like it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Morgellons is a real thing. It's showing up on people's bodies now, especially since they're inside a lot and they're not getting access to the sun.
This is how you can tell if something's real that culture demonizes. Look it up on the internet with the term Wikipedia and pseudoscience. So if the thing has been deemed by Wikipedia as a pseudoscience, you know it's like an awesome modality or superhero tool that's really going to help the human body. Yes. But like Morgellons is fake. So according to Wikipedia, it's a pseudoscience. So anytime you see those words together, Wikipedia and pseudoscience, you know that there's legitimacy to the thing they're trying to discredit.
That's really good to know, actually. And just to know that, you guys, Morgellons is a real thing, and there's plenty of information about it out there. But I want to tell you one of the things that is helpful in relation to that deactivates the nanos is boron. So borax is the 20 team borax is an apple cider vinegar. So when in an alkaline environment, cancer cannot exist within an alkaline environment, right?
Alkalinity is everything.
It's everything.
It is everything.
If you take like a little shot of boron every day, and then you also drink apple cider vinegar, what it does is it deactivates the nanos and it alkalizes your system so that cancer cannot grow in your body. It cannot exist.
It can't, and neither can viruses.
Right, neither can viruses and bacteria, basically.
Right.
And so there's also the probiotic factor of like candida and overgrowth in your system. So when you don't get a lot of sun, what happens is your body starts to go into overgrowth with the candida, depending on what you're eating. But even if you're eating healthy, because like I eat really healthy and my body is doing weird things that it's never done before. So the electronics, the Wi-Fi, right? The EMFs, the ELFs, and the G to the 5, right? If it's on, here's the thing, even though they haven't turned it on in all cities, they're amping up the hertz. That's already happening.
And the satellites are out there.
And the satellites.
Musk already put the satellites out.
Right.
The best thing for that is C60, Shungite. And
Shungite.
also, what I found, because I lived next to a 5G pole that was on.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was a nightmare. It was
my God.
It was worse than you can imagine.
I think I'm living next to one too, actually, though.
Here's the key, though. In your meditation, when setting up your field, your sovereignty, like all those things, line your field with elite shungite and C60, and then throw some Faraday material in there while you're at it.
Exactly. And
you're good.
Iridium.
Ooh.
So Iridium shield is one that I discovered along the way, right? And I've been utilizing that and telling people about that. So you create an Iridium shield. Now these are all etheric. So we're talking about when you set yourself up in your bubble of protection, your rainbow sphere of light, right? Inside of the rainbow sphere of light. Yep. And you dream shield at night so that you're not getting hijacked in your dreams, because that does happen, people. So that's a whole other conversation, but that is a conversation that we should have sometime, is the hijacking of our consciousness through the dream realm. Think about the smart meters. They're projecting things into our field through the smart meters. I have evidence of that in my own life. I have watched that happen. So I feel like right now they're actually utilizing that aspect to keep people locked into this consciousness that's playing out.
Okay.
Divisive consciousness. So for example, when I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, it was a brand new smart meter on this brand new house that I lived in. And I called the company and I said, I want an old meter. Can you come out and replace? Nope. I was like, dude, it's against the law. And they're like, nope, we're legally, that's what's got to happen here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, fuck. It's totally Masonic there, right? So I was like, okay. So I kept it. But then I started paying attention. I was like, okay, I need to really pay attention to what's coming in through the smart meter because it's on the wall where I sleep, like on the other side of it's like on that side of the house where on my bedroom side, I want to know what's going on. I saw modern versions of World War II dropping bombs. I saw all kinds of graphs and charts, pie charts. I saw so much programming going on, and I would notice it when I was waking up. It's not the hypnagogic state. It's the other one. Not when you're falling asleep, but when you're waking up. There's another name for it, hypnopompic or something. Anyway, it was during the time where I was waking up, I would come to and I would realize that all of these programs were being implemented in the mornings, very specifically in the mornings as I'm waking up to go into my day. They would be programming from like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. There was programs running in the smart meter. I literally tracked it down to 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Like, no joke.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then on top of that, they were tracking me and doing all kinds of other stuff. But like just that alone, I was able to detect what was going on in my psyche.
Well, I feel like that's a big piece of, like you had a smart meter. I've lived next to one of those poles.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of it is learning. Like we're kind of like the canaries of like, okay, what will this do to humanity? The other piece that I feel is that necessity is the mother of invention. So I feel like what it's doing is forcing us to master our frequency and learn to shift our frequency in different ways, because I do know that everything is happening for us. And I know that it's anti-life technology. And I also know that we're more powerful. So I also feel like a big part of getting through this is Aikidoing and ninja-ing and learning how, how to cloak, like all of those things, how to protect our frequency, how to shift our frequency.
Yep.
How to be nimble with it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I heard that there's a level of takeover that has happened and that they're being turned into Tesla towers.
I've heard that as well, the Kobe thing.
Yeah, and the Tesla towers specifically, like free energy towers.
Yeah, so I have heard that as well, but
I don't know.
And I'm not saying it's not correct, but I live next to a 5G tower and no one had that protective stuff on it. Like it was doing harm.
Oh yeah, no, at that time, sure. But I'm saying that I think that there's a movement towards that being the case with those.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not. Well, more will be revealed for sure. I heard that there's a turn. They're going to turn them on though, I think on September 8th.
Oh, well, that's right before. So Hillary's supposed to, that's when Aries goes, so that's when Mars goes retrograde on the 9th. And that's also when Hillary is supposed to testify.
Not only that, but it's
although now she's not anymore.
It's also when the public goes into the international rates.
Interesting.
For all the currencies, so they can trade their currencies out.
Got it.
That's the public day that they actually are able to start trading.
Big day, September 8th.
Big day, September 8th, September 9th. You guys just pay attention to that. So eugenics. All of what we just talked about, you guys, is connected to eugenics.
Since we're just now getting into this, I'm going to lobby for a second show because we've been chatting for 2 hours.
I know, it's true.
And I'm so excited to talk about eugenics with you, but like I will
we can totally focus. We'll focus on eugenics on another, we'll do another show.
Perfect.
Actually.
Yeah.
But just to say that current events are all connected to eugenics and this movement of eugenics throughout history, up until this point that has got us to this place where we are now. But it started in the mid 1800s, right? Mid-ish to late 1800s is when eugenics actually started. But it was going on before that, but that's when it was termed eugenics.
Yeah, that's when there was like the first British eugenics society and all of that. But it also depends on like which layer of the simulation we're going. You know, but like for for our most immediate one, yes.
Right, yes. And that's because there's so many other things.
Exactly. But keeping it in this dimension, that's what's seeding what is now reaching its crescendo.
Exactly. So this has all been played out. This has all been planned out for over 100 years.
Yeah.
In terms of the 3D reality and how it's playing out on that level. But there's all these other levels interdimensionally. And then what I would like to talk about in relation to this next time is Tartaria.
I'm fascinated by
mud
Tartaria.
flood. I'm fascinated too. I'm no
expert. I don't know that much about it.
But I can tell you right now that something happened. I truly believe that the Carrington event in 1859, the solar flash that took place in the mid-1800s, there was a direct result of that caused the mud flood. This is my take on it. I don't know this to be true because nobody even talks that has an actual history on it. Although, supposedly, Vladimir Putin declassified documents on Tartaria in the last month.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's super cool. I don't know how to find them yet. I still haven't found them, but I'm sure they're there somewhere in Russia. And they just haven't made it over here yet. But I heard that, and that's huge. So Tartaria was a civilization, this magical world that existed prior to this matrix that we're in now. And because at the turn of the century, at the turn of the 20th century, all the banking families formed and the banks formed and all of that locked it into place. And that is what we are experiencing now that is getting dismantled.
Yeah. Cool. So, I'm excited to talk to you about it.
This is really cool. So this is where we're going next with this conversation. Thank you for being here so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's watching. We appreciate you being here and witnessing us in our conversation. I'm going to turn off the recording now, and we'll catch you on part 2, flip side.